The Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting for Tuesday, September 26, 2023 is now called to order. Andrea, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 5:01 p.m., and as a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Schran.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Ms. Turner.
Present.
Ms. Stevens.
Present.
Ms. Simon. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Council President Jones.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. This time, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Andrea, has anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes, we have. Mr. Thomas Longo, former mayor of Garfield Heights.
Good evening.
Mr. Longo, if you could make sure that the green button is pushed on the microphone.
Okay,
It's
the
lit
green
up?
button, it's
Yep.
on?
Black button will give you a green light.
How's that?
You got it. I can hear you now.
Okay.
And then speak directly into the microphone and state your name, please.
Thomas J. Longo, former mayor of Garfield Heights. I'm here to speak about the project for the purchase of the 77 acres in Garfield Heights. Back in 2006, 7, 8, when we were organizing buying this property for economic development reasons, I would have never envisioned in 1,000 years that an opportunity like this would have come up. This is beyond the imagination, and let me tell you why. The county stands a chance with this kind of purchase to do some extraordinary things that will last for hundreds of years. You could build a center, a county center located in the middle of the county for people to come, go, do business, et cetera. Courts, the list is endless. It's only your imagination and what you can do with 77 acres. I've never seen this. Now, there's an old thing that I learned. When they built Cleveland Baseball Stadium down the street here, do you know for 0.025 mils, that's less than a 1 mil, they could have had a dome on that. But somebody says, oh, the money, we got to be conservative, we got to do this, we got to. No dome, we didn't win the World Series in 2016. When you work by committee, and this council's a committee, working with the voters is a committee, you don't nickel-dime events. That's why this is so interesting. You go for the whole hog. You got to let your mind go. You got to really think this thing through because of what you can do with this. I was on a committee for the Cuyahoga County Library, and they were trying to figure out what to do with their, this is back in the 90s. They were trying to figure out what to do with all their libraries. And they were talking, well, you know, Garfield, we have to do this, Brecksville. And finally we said to them, hey, why don't you put it all together, figure out what this whole thing's going to cost, and let's go to the voters and ask for everything you need. And they did it. And it passed overwhelmingly. There are other examples. So as I'm saying, you stand at a tremendous point in history. This opportunity does not come about every 2 minutes. I never saw anything like this in 26 years as mayor of Garfield Heights, and I probably won't see anything like this for the rest of this century. But there's something really to do, but you gotta let your mind go. You gotta expand beyond the boundaries. And so that I'm urging you, as you look at this, look at the big picture, have your architects, have your county executive, put this all together. So anyways, thank you for the opportunity and good luck with your voting.
Councilman Marty Sweeney.
My name's Martin Sweeney, and Mr. President, my colleagues, the executive, his dedicated staff, and the viewing audience and the invited guest. I'm Marty Sweeney. I don't want to be here, but I've been thinking about it for a long time, and the last council meeting we had before our recess has been bothering me ever since. It wasn't the greatest council meeting, but one thing that came out of that meeting was a statement. Oh, I left my phone over there. There was a quote in the paper, and I have the highest esteem for the person that said it, and I have a growth opportunity with this statement that was made. It was, 6 white males have decided to take a block of people who are predominantly African American and Hispanic to a location that is hard for families to get to. And if they get released, it's hard for them to go away. I have concern that the people that are trying to do what is easiest for them, that is something that bothers me. I am one of those 6 white males, and I'm looking at each and every one of the other 6 white males. I just want my council president to have a reaction to it. Crickets the entire time. We talked 2 weeks ago at the council meeting. We just talked in my office very specifically about this. And you walked out and said, I'm pondering it. For the good of the council, the entire viewing audience, the people that read it, believe or have read that there are 6 white males that have that thought process. I'd like you to condemn it. The words were reckless and hurtful, and I just don't want it swept under the carpet. I have a very privileged opportunity to be a council person for a very diverse and racially equitable wards and districts. It's hurting me out in my neighborhood with people saying, what's up, Sweeney? And I can't defend it. And I'm asking my council president to at least have a comment about it. 39 seconds left. Thank you, and I look forward to continuing to serve.
Tim Sommerfelt.
Hello, I'm Tim Sommerfelt. I am the secretary for the Cleveland Association of Rescue Employees. That's the union for Cleveland EMS. I've been a paramedic for 17 years, and I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Cleveland. Tomorrow, the Adams Board will vote to give a contract to Frontline to form a new mental health response team. In our eyes, this is a missed opportunity because these teams will only feature a social worker and a peer with lived experience. What they won't feature is an EMS provider. Now, nationally, this is a best practice. Cities such as Austin, Denver, Chicago, Eugene, Oregon, Cincinnati, all have integrated an EMS provider into their mental health response teams. And that's one of our greatest failings in Cuyahoga County, is that we continue to treat mental and medical issues as separate things. We put them in their own silos. The Adams Board will invest millions in standalone options like the Diversion Center or what's become of St. Vincent, and these are very lightly utilized. Meanwhile, EMS in the emergency room are inundated with people who have serious mental health issues, and they don't receive any additional funding to manage that. While we often focus on police, the reality is EMS has become the go-to for mental health emergencies, and we're often transporting hundreds of patients every month. In fact, we often see the same people over and over again. Last year, 1,766 911 calls were generated by just 25 individuals. And we have to ask ourselves, are we really solving the problem if we take somebody to the hospital literally 181 times in 1 year? And we need to think of these EMS ambulances as scarce, valuable medical response units, not just an infinite taxi to the hospital. Because every time we commit an ambulance to an hours-long mental health de-escalation, we're taking it away from a time-sensitive medical emergency like a stroke, a heart attack, or a shooting. So how did we get here? Because of the phrase medical clearance. No facility in the county is going to accept a person until they've been medically cleared to make sure that there's not a medical issue causing their abnormal behavior. And that's why it's crucial that we integrate an EMS provider into these teams so we can do that medical clearance, divert people away from the hectic and unhealthy ER environment when they're having that mental health crisis, and get them directly into a detox center, directly into a mental health facility. If we don't, we run the risk of creating just another team with great intentions, but who lacks the ability to truly solve the problem. And make no mistake, if we're going to solve this problem, we need to better coordinate with EMS. If anybody wants to engage further with me about this, I can be reached at 216-548-4242. Thank you for your time.
Lou?
Good evening, everybody. I just heard something very interesting, which will hit my environment or the group of people I always talked about much, as the loss of opportunities. Great city of Garfield Heights right now has to resort in having a jail building there for their economy, local economy. EMS thinking that they have been neglected, but from my experience, for us to make a call to ask for EMS, unless we can really tell them directly that it's really a heart problem or it's somebody's water broke or anything, lots of time they cannot come because they have to wait for the police to show up. So lots of the public policy set up here, we really have to question, whom are we really helping? Are we really helping some of the people at this time? Then other people complain, then we change the regulation to cater to those people? Or we are really organization trying to help everybody, to lift everybody up together, as the slogan we have here saying, together we thrive? Still, I will say that together we died. Why? In the shelter right now, you can have all the unhoused homeless people in there with the workers in there having construction again. The other day, I witnessed that myself. The temporarily set up actually fell down on elderly people who had a walker and with another person helping her to go from this side of the building to the other side of the building. So if we really have a good county jail built with everything improved, please remember 2018, the first meeting, I gave you a New Year resolution to move the shelter service into county jail. I still stand for it. Please accept that New Year resolution. In that case, we can really see why we need a bigger jail to house more people to begin with. Nobody cares about the bail reform. We still want the mass incarceration continue. So who's actually helping whom? Who's actually getting the help they need? Nothing happening. Please, we need county council members to understand that. The situation I described, Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Ronay, you both have been inside the facility. So if a county jail needs a makeover like that, why shelters cannot have a proper buildings for the guys and the gals needing help in order to stand up again in the community to have the decent help, humane and with dignity? Thank you.
Larry Heller?
Hi, my name is Larry Heller. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As you know, I've spoken many times about evidence supporting that incarceration does not lead to long-term behavior change, but treatment does. Treatment works, people do recover. A system of corrections to earn the name of corrections needs to focus on correcting maladaptive behavior, rehabilitating the individual, correcting the maladaptive or undesired behaviors. treatment can achieve that. The evidence supports that incarceration does not achieve these goals. So thank you to this council for your prior commitment to focus on diversion into treatment rather than on incarceration. Thank you also for authorizing and creating our wonderful diversion center to accomplish this. Thank you also for your support of the new crisis center. So when the new crisis center opens and all our self-referrals are going there instead of the diversion center, our diversion center may be sitting almost empty. This group authorized creating our diversion center. We are not using it. This group spoke of a commitment to diversion into treatment, but we have not yet achieved it. If we do commit to diversion and really achieve our goal to divert people from entering the jail, we will save billions of dollars. We will save lives. We will help individuals and families in our community, and we'll reduce jail population. And all this talk about a new jail, we'll be talking about a much smaller facility, which is much more easily achieved. Many of the recent proposals supporting these new jail proposals have either used outdated guesses as to population and capacity needs. Some of these were developed before the diversion center was authorized. They were developed before the COVID reductions in population, where we proved that we really can reduce population without a big increase in crime. So many of these are outdated guesses, and furthermore, they don't even consider the possibility or the impact that diversion or bail reform or other pending changes may have on jail population. We do not need a larger jail. This group, this council, already determined that when we decided we wanted to divert people from the jail. This group examined all the evidence and determined we could fill a 50-bed facility. That was based on evidence. We have not even come close to diverting that many people. With an average stay of 3.5 days, we could be diverting close to 100 people a week, and we're not even close. I send more people than most of our law enforcement agencies. All we have to do is make that firm commitment and communicate effectively that commitment to focus on diversion, including to our law enforcement community, getting them to use the facility for diversion. Thank you very much.
Stephanie Thomas.
Good evening. When I was in the Cuyahoga County
Ms.
Jail...
Thomas, if you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is Stephanie Thomas. I'm a resident and business owner in Cleveland. When I was in the Cuyahoga County Jail, I was only served quote-unquote food that I'm sure a starving dog would not even eat. Bought out by HIG Capital in 2012, a private equity company, Trinity Services Group took over quote-unquote food service in 2014 at the county jail. The food I was served was literally looked and tasted like rotten dog food. In addition to having no food to eat for 4 days, I was not provided with any medical assessment or treatment, though I told the intake nurse that I would be going through alcohol withdrawal within hours of being arrested. I finally saw a nurse only the morning of my release. To say that a more humane environment will be provided at an absurdly costly new site without addressing issues of cost-cutting and a lack of respect for human life, I don't believe you. It is on the onus of the county to prove that they can manage the existing jail before continuing to push for the taxpayers of Cleveland to fund a new jail. Thank you.
Kareem Hinton.
Kareem Hinton, Cuyahoga County Jail Coalition. I'll make this quick again. Like the former mayor of Garfield just said earlier, you have an opportunity of a lifetime here. And that's one of making my grandchildren in debt along with me for the next 40+ years. So when I walk, and here's what I think of when I look at that proposed site. When I'm over there, and I have been over there, I see where people leaving the jail will be able to go and take care of business in the county courthouse. They can go to the Cleveland City Hall. Oh, wait, they can't go to those places because those places aren't anywhere near it. They can't go and take care of the business that they need to take care of. The people leaving the jail, maybe they'll be able to go to the mental health services or substance use services when they leave the jail in the evening. But then again, maybe they won't because those things will be closed down by the time they're leaving out. I don't know if you're aware because I do work at the jail. But the majority of the people who get out, they get out later on in the afternoon and into the evening. So those services that are on that proposed campus are not going to be utilized by them when they come out. The same goes for housing for those that are homeless. And so I want you to think about, lastly, the transportation issue. I've been in contact with people numerous times who have come out of that jail, and because when they were taken to that jail, maybe they didn't have the clothing, but they certainly didn't have the pockets to put money into, and I don't think officers were going to let them get money. Those people came out of jail without the money to catch a bus. So while we're talking about, well, we're going to increase the routes or the services to that particular bus route, are you going to make that free for them? Of course you're not. So these people are going to be stuck from where, long and far away from where they were arrested. And understand this, that when RTA considers doing cost cutting like they do, that as they do that cost cutting, they're going to go for the underutilized routes. That's going to be the first thing on the chopping block because people don't have the money to catch that bus. So again, rethink that location, keep it downtown in the transportation hub that it is currently in, refurbish that current existing jail. It's going to cost less than buying this pipe dream. Thank you.
Victor Goodman.
Victor Goodman, Euclid resident. I was almost nearly killed at the Euclid Public Library with 4 youths in a stolen Kia. I went to my police chief, who simply said, even if we get them, there will be no penalties. They'll get a slap on the wrist, and that's it. We have a cancer that has grown and grown in Cuyahoga County. It is youth crime, not adult crime, youth crime. And you can see it by the fact that actually the county is a used car lot for Kia and Hyundais. We must do something about that. The juvenile detention center must be looked at. You're only looking at the jail for adults. The Juvenile Justice Center is in chaos. My wife and I used to be CASAs there. We know the chaos. You must even think about the possibility of building a more modern facility for youth. If they have no penalty, they have no reason to stop. And the next will be, they'll actually kill me with the car, or they'll break into your house. And it could be any of you as well as me. I look at life in what I call the Nero effect. And you all here are Nero. Rome is burning. Are you going to sit there and fiddle, or are you actually going to do something about it? A new jail in Garfield Heights is a great idea, but as the gentleman just said, nothing is there with it. You're not putting a court there now, and you're not putting your center there now, and you're not putting anything else there now. The jail must stay downtown. You have land downtown to build a new one. Garfield Heights will put a tremendous deficit, no, that's not the right word, will put a tremendous hindrance on the law enforcement who has to travel to Garfield Heights rather than downtown and drive from Garfield Heights to the court. You're not taking those little simple things into consideration. It is absolutely unfeasible to consider building it anywhere but downtown Cleveland. Thank you.
John Eckerly.
My name is John Eckerly, and I've come to you before about taking a perspective of a systemic approach. All the people that preceded me were all talking about systems problems, where maybe when we were doing the diversion center, we didn't take into account EMS. In a systems approach, you will talk all the way down to the guards, even the inmates, and on up. When you're developing jail, I think it's the wrong word. It's the wrong concept you should go after, which is you should go after a justice system. And as equal partners with the executive, you need to demand that there's a system approach, a system solution. The other thing I wanted to remind you about was my persistent thing, which is this body, along with the former executive, was told in 2014 through a report, a Harvard winning report, Sustainable NEO, Vibrant NEO 2040, that every government in Cuyahoga County in 2040 is going to be 60.4% underwater. We're going to drown in our own infrastructure. It's going to happen. It's sort of like predicting climate change. It's coming. What have we done since 2014 to address this? I'm suggesting that you have a systematic approach to planning, long term. Just because you're not going to be sitting here doesn't mean that we shouldn't be planning. There's a jail that has a 40-year note. I think you need to say to the current executive, and the executive needs to say to you, we need a planning across the county. If the Tri-County is not going to do it, Cuyahoga County needs to. And the first great step is appointing Christopher Alvarado as director of the Department of Regional Collaboration, because I think I couldn't think of a better person for that job. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion for today's meeting.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Announcements from the council president. The appropriation for the Freshwater Institute project, item K, section 1, that was deleted from the September 12th fiscal agenda and initially referred to the Finance and Budgeting Committee, is now being referred to the Education, Environment, and Sustainability Committee for discussion on October 4th at 3 p.m. at the request of Council Member Simon.
Council President,
Yes,
can we go back and
We
do
sure
the approval
can.
of the minutes?
we sure can. Approval of our minutes. We have a motion to accept our minutes as presented on the agenda.
Oh, second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And at this time, we'll have, Council Member, yes.
Mr. President, it is my belief that once an item is referred to committee by the council president, that a change in that referral should be approved by the full council. And so therefore, I'm going to make a motion that the change in the referral that you just made be ratified by the council.
I'll second it.
All right. Discussion?
Yes.
Councilman Miller, did you have a concern about it? Were you opposed to it, or?
I'm not at all opposed to it. I'm
Just
fine with it. It's only that I think procedurally that's what's supposed to happen. So I'm in support of your action and making the motion to ratify it. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. So it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, thank you, Councilman Miller. At this time, Member Turner will present a proclamation to Mr. Orlando Grant of the Iota Phi Theta fraternity.
Would you please step forward? President Jones, Vice President Stevens, colleagues, I know we have a long agenda tonight, so I want to thank you for this opportunity. Just step up to the mic to honor the men of Beta Lambda Omega Cleveland Alumni Chapter of the Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Back on September 19th, they celebrated their 60th anniversary of the founding of their organization at Morgan State College. The Beta Lambda Omega Chapter has consistently upheld its mission to be a change agent in Northeast Ohio. So I'm proud to highlight one of the initiatives that we partnered on together with Cuyahoga County Land Bank, a plethora of other benefactors who donated their time and work for us to rehab a home in my district, County District 9. I want to thank you, Conwell, Stevens, and Jones for showing up on the day of the kickoff. It was a beautiful day. And we have an update. I think we're going to be handing keys over to this family that was identified through the city mission. So we will be gifting this home to a single mother with 3 sons. So they will have the keys in November, and they will be honored at your 60th anniversary gala on Saturday, October 7th. And so at this time, without further ado, I want to present this proclamation to the men of the Beta Lambda Omega Chapter of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated.
All right.
Recognize Orlando Grant, who is the past chapter president and the president of the Beta Lambda Omega Foundation, and Vice President Devin Whitmore, and the men.
All right, at this time, messages from our county executive.
Thank you, Mr. Council President and members of council. Good evening to all of you. I wanted to, well, first thank the citizens, as always, for your public comments and your passion and what you had to say, and also to the Iota Phi Theta fraternity. Thank you for your work and your service, and Councilwoman Turner for recognizing that service. I wanted to say first, Council President, members of council, we are grateful for the leadership that joined us today with the Women's Health Advisory Council press conference at Metro Health. It'll be on the agenda later this evening, but we are grateful, again, that council persons Conwell, Turner, and Stevens were with us at the event, and also I believe Councilman Kelly, Miller, Sweeney were there, and maybe others I missed, but it was an important showing to stand up for health equity, particularly for women, disparity in this community as it relates to women's health, and particularly Black women. It's the reason that we are putting together the Women's Health Advisory Council, and we have great support also from our partners over at Metro Health. I look forward to working with you on this to again, address barriers to access to health care, and particularly the disparities that are affecting our African-American women. So thank you for joining, and thank you for your leadership. Second item I wanted to reference, Council President, was the Climate Leadership Conference that I was a part of as a part of Climate Week last week. I went and pitched and have pitched with some of our team members Cleveland as a future conference site, and we won it. And we will host next year, May 21 through 23, the climate. You okay?
Yeah, he's all right. Everything good?
All right. The Climate Leadership Conference, May 21st here in town. We expect some 400 persons from New York to California to join us and all the states between. That's good news for Cleveland as we continue to progress on the climate leadership front. Third item I want to mention is if you haven't had a chance to read about it, go out and see it, and that is the Jesse Owens Olympic Plaza that opened yesterday with members of Jesse Owens' family from Chicago present and from members from Cleveland area with us. This is important because we continue to dig back in history and honor heroes like Jesse Owens, who in the 1936 Olympics stood up Adolf Hitler and won 4 gold medals, and he's a hometown hero in Cleveland. I know you know that well, Councilwoman Conwell, and everybody. We need to keep honoring Jesse Owens, but that plaza is alongside the Harrison Dillard Trail. Owens was a mentor to Harrison Dillard. Harrison Dillard was won the 100-meter and 4 gold medals himself, but back-to-back, it was Jesse Owens from Cleveland, Ohio, and Harrison Dillard from Cleveland, Ohio, who in 1936 and because of the war gap in 1948, were back-to-back winners of the 100-meter dash, and between them, 8 gold medals between those Olympics. So today at Rockefeller Park, you will see right at the Rockefeller Lagoon on MLK Boulevard, the confluence of Harrison Dillard Trail and the new Jesse Owens Olympic Plaza. So we salute the Owens family and certainly Jesse Owens himself. I wanted to say that we're in the middle of National Hispanic Heritage Month, and we continue to honor our Hispanic citizens in this community and thank them for everything they do, and it's good to be in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. I want to also finally say there's a number of people out here today who are at the invitation of others, but welcome Parma Councilman Mark Castleberry, and particular welcome to a large delegation of representatives from the city of Garfield, the mayor, council president, members of council, and other citizens. Thanks for your partnership. That's all I have, Council President. Thank you, members of council.
All right. Legislation introduced by council, consideration of resolution of council for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, the rules are suspended.
Resolution 2023-0255, approving a collective bargaining agreement between Cuyahoga County Veterans Service Commission and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Ohio Council 8, representing approximately 19 employees in various classifications for the period September 26, 2023 through September 25, 2026.
This item was previously discussed in executive session. Council will take no action on this item. Consideration of resolutions of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution 2023-0256, awarding a total sum not to exceed $20,000 to Forget Me Not Animal Rescue for food and medical expenses for rescued animals from the District 3 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Education, Environment, and Sustainability Committee.
Resolution 2023-0257, awarding a total sum not to exceed $100,000 to Providence House for the Providence House East Side Community Services Hub from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Resolution 2023-0258, awarding a total sum not to exceed $25,000 to the Greater Cleveland Habitat for Humanity, Inc. for the Cleveland Habitat Headquarters Building Acquisition Project from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Resolution 2023-0259, awarding a total sum not to exceed $50,000 to Attain Healing LLC for the Community Mental Behavioral Health Center project from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Health, Human Services, and Aging Committee.
Resolution 2023-0260, awarding a total sum not to exceed $500,000 to the Famicos Foundation for the Glenville Housing Preservation Project from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Resolution 2023-0261, awarding a total sum not to exceed $10,000 to the Lee Road Baptist Church for the Harvard Family Institute program from the District 9 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will be referred to the Community Development Committee. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions of council for second reading.
Resolution 2023-0222, awarding a total sum not to exceed $250,000 to Mobile Med 1, doing business as MedWorks, for the purpose of expanding MedWorks oral health and dental care in Cleveland from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10, 2023 council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0230, awarding a total sum not to exceed $20,000 to the Metro West Community Development Corp. for the Future Inc. Graphics Creative Development project from the District 3 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0231, awarding a total sum not to exceed $25,000 to the Downtown Cleveland Alliance for the Neighborhood Safety Specialist Program from the District 3 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0232, awarding a total sum not to exceed $100,000 to Hazelwood Court LLC for the Hazelwood Court Senior Housing Project from the District 8 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0233, awarding a total sum not to exceed $10,000 to Ohio Voice for repairs and refrigerator replacement at the Fifth Christian Church from the District 9 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0234, awarding a total sum not to exceed $20,000 to Delta Alpha Lambda Foundation, Inc. for the Food Pantry Site Building Grounds, Driveway, and Rear Access Improvement Project from the District 9 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
This item will move to the October 10th agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0236, approving the appointment or reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument Commission Board of Trustees for various terms. For appointment for an unexpired term ending November 5th, 2025, Brigadier General Peter Collins. Reappointments for the term November 16th, 2023 through November 15th, 2028, Donald N. Jaffe, Richard T. Pressey, and Michael R. Slowinski.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions of council for second reading adoption under suspension of rules. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Resolution 2023-0223, adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County Non-Bargaining Classification Plan.
Move to adopt. Second. On September 12th, this legislation was referred to the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee and heard in committee on September 19th. The Personnel Review Commission is responsible for maintaining a fair and equitable class plan for the county's classified employees. This legislation seeks approval of 4 revisions to our class plan. 3 revisions result from the PRC's routine maintenance of job duties and simply adds additional technical requirements to each position. The final matter is shifting departmental supervision of the appraisal system administration from the IT department to the fiscal department and was fully vetted by the impacted departments. I ask for you to support this legislation.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0235, again adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan.
Move to adopt.
Second.
This legislation was introduced also on September 12th, heard in committee on the 19th. This legislation is brought by the PRC to revise our class plan. 4 matters are routine maintenance by the PRC and updates job duties of the positions. The Sheriff's Department is seeking the creation of a new classification to serve as the county's lead staff member for the operation of the automated fingerprinting system. The 2 classifications that are proposed to be deleted from the class plan are currently vacant, and both the HR and Public Works departments have no intention of reviving the positions. I ask for my colleagues' support of this legislation.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Committee report in consideration of an ordinance of council for second reading.
Ordinance 2023-0015, amending Section 206.12 of the Cuyahoga County Code to codify the county's planning regions represented by the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, and to clarify the procedures for the designation of alternates.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda, again for consideration for third reading adoption. Legislation introduced by executive. Consideration of a resolution for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Again, can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Resolution 2023-0262, amending the 2022-2023 biennial operating budget for 2023 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations, appropriation transfers, and cash transfers, and amending Resolution Number 2023-0238, dated September 12th, 2023.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, my colleagues, this resolution is the regular fiscal agenda. Notable is the transfer of $1 million in veteran services for the build-out of their physical space. The remaining items are routine. I recommend passage on first reading suspension.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution 2023-0263, confirming the county executive's appointment of various individuals to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for the term July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2027. For the following individuals, appointments: Michelle Curry, Rebecca Dorman, and Molly Wimbiscus.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0264, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Valerie Katz to serve on the Cuyahoga County Natural Resources Assistance Council for the term October 14th, 2023 through October 13th, 2026.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0265, confirming the county executive's appointment of Adrian Maldonado to serve on the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2026.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0266, again confirming the county executive's appointment of Michael Shoup to serve on the City of Cleveland's Cuyahoga County Workforce Board of Development for an unexpired term, again ending July 31st, 2026.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0267, confirming the county executive's appointment of Kim Shelnick to serve on the City of Cleveland's Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2026.
And this item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0268, confirming the county executive's appointment of Erica Steed to serve on the City of Cleveland's Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2026.
And this item will be referred to the Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0269, confirming the county executive's appointment of William Seelback to serve on the City of Cleveland's Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2026.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0270, confirming the county executive's appointment of Stephen Love to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees for the term March 4th, 2023 through March 3rd, 2026.
This item will be referred to the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee.
Resolution 2023-0271, confirming the county executive's appointment of Brad Cromes upon his taking the oath of office as county treasurer.
This item will be referred to the Committee of the Whole.
Resolution 2023-0272, authorizing the county executive to enter into a local governance agreement with the City of Cleveland and a to-be-formed nonprofit organization to carry out workforce development activities for the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Area.
This item will be referred to the Education, Environment, and Sustainability Committee.
Resolution 2023-0273, authorizing an amendment to a revenue-generating agreement with the City of Cleveland to lease space located at 1300 Ontario Street in the City of Cleveland for the period October 2nd, 2018 through October 1st, 2023, to extend the time period to October 1st, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $2,307,513 at an increased rate of $18 per square foot for 114,500 square feet, $9 per square foot for another 7,557 square feet, plus parking and fees, and the cost of proportional share of utilities.
This item will be referred to the Public Works, Procurement, and Contracting Committee.
Resolution 2023-0274, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Alto 55 Erie LLC, doing business as Alto 55, for lease of space located at the 75 Erie Plaza in the City of Cleveland for the operation of the Family Justice Center by the Department of Public Safety and Justice Services Witness Victim for the period June 1st, 2014 through October 31st, 2023, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2027, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $915,400.
This item will be referred to the Public Works, Procurement, and Contracting Committee.
Resolution 2023-0275, making an award on requisition 12689 to the Rulin Company in the amount not to exceed $28,771,797.70 for rehabilitation of various Pleasant Valley Road bridges in the City of Independence and Village of Valley View.
This item will be referred to the Public Works, Procurement, and Contracting Committee.
Thanks. And for the items A through C. Resolution 2023-0276, authorizing amendments to 2 revenue-generating agreements with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for the lease of 2 Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities centers for operation of the Bright Beginnings programs, formerly known as Help Me Grow programs, for the period September 15th, 2013 through September 14th, 2023, to extend the time period to September 14, 2026, to change the terms effective September 15, 2023, and for additional revenue in the total amount not to exceed $6 for A through B, Green Road Services Center, and B, William Patrick Day Services Center.
This item will be referred to the Public Works, Procurement, and Contracting Committee.
Resolution 2023-0277, making an award on requisition 12944 to various providers in the amount not to exceed $1,257,500 for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program to Skills Employment and Training Program for the period October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024 for the various providers A through G.
This item will be referred to the Health, Human Services, and Aging Committee. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading.
Resolution 2023-0227, amending Resolution 2023-02 2020-0100, dated June 23, 2020, which declared public convenience and welfare for the resurfacing of various roads, avenues, and streets located in various municipalities in connection with the 2021-2024 Transportation Improvement Program by changing the termini for Forbes Road from First Place to Richmond Road to Fair Oaks Road to Richmond Road in the cities of Bedford, Bedford Heights, and the village of Oakwood, and to change the total estimated project cost from $930,000 to $2,130,000.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0241, confirming the county executive's appointment of Christopher Alvarado as Director of the Department of Regional Collaboration.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0246, authorizing a payment to the Mount Sinai Healthcare Foundation as fiscal agent for the Lead Safe Cleveland Coalition in the amount not to exceed $800,000 for operational support for the period September 26, 2023 through December 31st, 2023.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0247, authorizing an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $2 million to 2168 West 25th Street, LLC, for the benefit of a mixed-use real estate redevelopment project for property located at 2168 West 25th Street in the city of Cleveland, Ohio.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0248, amending Resolution 2023-0122, dated May 23, 2023, which made awards to various municipalities for various projects or programs in connection with the 2022-2023 Community Development Block Grant Program for the period April 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2023, by removing Village of Highland Hills and reducing the total not to exceed amount from $3,004,930 to $2,854,930.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0250, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Empowering and Strengthening Ohio's People for Counseling and Financial Assistance Services to income-eligible tenants in connection with the Emergency Rental Assistance 2 program for the period June 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2025, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2025, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $10 million.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading adoption under suspension of rules. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Again, properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Resolution 2023-0226, confirming the county executive's appointment of Deidre McPherson to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending April 30th, 2024.
Move to adopt. Second. We heard this legislation on September 12th in the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee and was discussed on September 19th. We also heard from RTA CEO India Birdsong Terry. She provided background on RTA operations and introduced Ms. Deidre McPherson, the nominee to serve on the RTA Board of Trustees. Ms. McPherson has an extensive background in local cultural affairs and currently serves as the Chief Community Officer for the Assembly of the Arts. She is also a strong advocate for sustainability and a regular user of the RTA system. She is a Cleveland Heights resident and will be an excellent addition to the Board of Trustees. I ask for my colleagues' support of her nomination.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0228, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Level 3 Communications, LLC, for lease of parking lot spaces located at 4000 Euclid Avenue for use by the Department of Health and Human Services for the period April 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2023, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2028, to change the terms effective July 1st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $157,500.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, on September 20th, 2023, Mr. John Myers of Public Works came before the Public Works Committee to discuss this piece of legislation. The funding is 66% from the HHS levy fund, 34% from Title IV E funds, which is federal. The contract amount by year is $31,500, and it covers approximately 65 parking spaces, which will be used by HHS staff workers and visitors. And the terms of the contract are consistent with prior lease agreements at this location, and we are going to ask council to move forward with this piece of legislation.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0240, accepting the revised rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. President, my colleagues, this is a routine resolution which simply reconfirms the rates that were previously adopted in an earlier resolution, and it meets a state requirement.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0242, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Trinity Services Group, Inc. for jail food services for the Cuyahoga County Jail System for the period June 15, 2020 through September 30th, 2023, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount of $7,876,928 for a total not to exceed amount of $17,740,473.
Move to adopt. Second. Mr. President, this was heard in safety. I know it's a hot-button issue for many of the people here in the room and on the council. This affords Trinity a 1-year, actually 6-month railings on this for both sides if things don't work out, but it's a 1-year extension where Trinity will take over all operations within the jail. An RFP will be going out as we move forward, and we're hopeful that this will fix many of the problems that we've experienced with the food service in the jail. With that, the recommendation of the committee was to accept this.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Opposed.
I had one.
Opposed.
Oh, let's do a roll call.
Okay. Calling the roll, Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell,
No.
Ms. Turner,
No.
Ms. Stevens,
No.
Ms. Simon? No. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Mr. Tuma?
I'm going to say yes with comment. My comment is that we really are limited in our options at the moment, and people in the jail need to continue to eat, and this is not the optimal contract, and I certainly understand my colleagues' frustration with Trinity, but again, I'm going to vote because I think it's a necessity to move forward with allowing inmates there to eat. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Council President Jones?
Yes.
The motion carries, passing 6 in the affirmative and 4 voting, casting dissenting votes.
That'd be 5. 5.
I'm sorry, 5. Yeah. Again, the motion carries.
Madam Clerk, when you're ready, you can read the next item into the record.
Resolution 2023-0243, making an award on a purchase order to the Safety Company LLC, doing business as MTech Company, in the amount not to exceed $548,740 for a state contract purchase of one replacement new Gap Vax combination jet vacuum machine for the Sanitary Engineering Division.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, this legislation was brought forth before Public Works on September 20th by Nicole English in Public Works. And this machine will perform vacuum work on residential sewers. It will last for approximately 10 years, assuming normal usage. And this machine will also replace the previous vacuum that has outlived its functional life. And I would ask my colleagues' support on this piece of legislation.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0244, making an award on a purchase order to Rush Truck Centers of Ohio, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $3,165,625 for a joint government cooperative purchase of 5 replacement new, never titled sewer vac trucks for use by the Sanitary Division.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
And, Mr. President, this particular piece of legislation also came before us on September 20th, 2023, and it was brought by Ms. English in Public Works. This is coming 100% from the Sanitary Sewer Maintenance Fund, and the vehicles will replace old and out-of-service vehicles. It was becoming too costly to constantly repair the vehicles. This entire process, actually, of purchasing vehicles is very time-consuming. So Public Works wants to start the process early and have some flexibility in the timing of receipt of the vehicles, which will be used by the Sanitary Sewer Division and replace the older ones, as I mentioned. The regular repairs have become just, again, exorbitant and removing valuable vehicles from use during the repair time. So I would ask for my colleagues' support on this legislation.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0245, making an award on requisition 11528 to Sarchon Ford of Alliance in the amount not to exceed $520,071 for the purchase of 3 new never-titled Ford F-550 regular cab trucks and 3 new never-titled Ford 550 crew trucks for use by the Road and Bridge Division.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
And, Mr. President, this is very similar to the prior discussion on the previous item. These 6 vehicles will replace used ones by the Public Works Department, and the current vehicles are in very poor condition and have run up numerous repairs that have taken the vehicles out of service. Once the new vehicles do arrive, the old ones will be sold via auction if anybody's interested in buying our old vehicles. So, thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0249, authorizing a home and emergency rental assistance to loans for various organizations or their designees in the total amount not to exceed $6,350,000 for items A through H.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. President, Director Sarah Parks Jackson came before the Community Development Committee recommending approval of all of these requests, and I believe that they're all incredibly important for completing affordable housing projects in Cuyahoga County.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0251, authorizing a contract with Emerald Development and Economic Network, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $10 million for emergency rental and utility services to income-eligible tenants in connection with the Emergency Rental Assistance 2 program for the period June 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. President.
Ms. Stevens, if you could speak louder into the microphone, please.
Move approval.
Second.
This was a resolution authorizing we enter into a contract with Emerald Development and their economic development network, we have a huge increase in the number of people who are not being housed in Cuyahoga County. And this funding was the creative work of the staff in the housing department to obtain additional funding from other sources to make sure that we can place more people in homes.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0252, making awards on requisition 11808 to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $8,353,645.74 for youth workforce employment, education, and training services in connection with the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program for the period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. This matter was heard in Education Environment Committee several weeks ago, and as for your support, this provides for the youth opportunities for work, and we heard testimony from who was present that this is actually successful in getting better as we step out of COVID.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0253, authorizing an amendment to an agreement with Metro Health System for the Metro Health Select Network Health Benefit Plan for the county employees and their eligible dependents for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $1,645,000.
Move to adopt. It was introduced on September 12th, heard in committee on September 19th from Sarah Nimestill, the county's Human Resources Director. She outlined the contents of the agreement with Metro Health, which is funded 100% by the Hospitalization Self-Insurance Fund. This legislation will continue the county's health benefit plan with Metro Health for one additional year. If approved, this plan will end on June 30th, 2024. Metro Health has been a great partner for the county and a strong promoter of public health initiatives that are so important to this region. I joined the HR team in asking for approval of this important contract extension.
All right, move to adopt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution 2023-0254, authorizing a contract with Medical Mutual of Ohio in the amount not to exceed $1,800,000 for stop-loss insurance services for county employees and their eligible dependents and Cuyahoga County Benefits Regionalization Program participants, employees, and their eligible dependents for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023.
Move to adopt. On September 19th, we heard from Human Resources Appointments, and we heard this at the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee, presented by Sarah Nimestill. This contract is extremely late. Just wanted to put that out there. This legislation seeks approval of an agreement with the Medical Mutual for stop-loss insurance services. This coverage allows the county to ease the financial impact should a covered employee incur significant and costly medical care. It is essential for our HR team to have this coverage in place. I ask for your approval of this legislation.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consideration of a resolution for third reading adoption.
Resolution 2023-0182, authorizing a real estate option to purchase agreement with Craig Realty Group, Cleveland, LLC, or its designee, for the purchase of certain parcels of real property in Garfield Heights, Ohio, with access to Granger Road, totaling approximately 72.1 acres, now known as permanent parcel numbers 542-14004, 542-15002, and 542-22022, and a portion of permanent parcel number 542-14-002 in an amount not to exceed $38,703,000.
Mr. President, I have a proposed substitute that I wish to submit before council. It really is, the substitute is to return the language back to the original as proposed, and it was amended 2 meetings ago. And so I hereby move to the proposed substitute before this panel.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded.
Mr. President, I
further
have
discussion?
point of clarification.
Yes,
On
Councilwoman.
your agenda items. With regard to the one before us, this is up for third reading adoption. Is it your intention, Mr. President, to bypass the study results from the Kirby Eddy site, the voluntary action plan by partners? Is it your intention to move forward with voting on this with the substitution perhaps, without ever considering the study that was performed with the vote of this council and taxpayer dollars?
In terms of the study, we're not bypassing. We worked with the administration to receive the study close to more than 2 weeks ago. So this legislation is here today before us because this body has received the study and has had 2 weeks to review it. And so I would not use the term bypass. No, our colleagues have reviewed it over the last 2 weeks.
Mr. President, it is also your intention to move forward rather than having a vote on the sales jail tax today, 0012 and 0013, rather than vote on this on third reading. Is it your intention to send the funding portion of this resolution to committee rather than voting on that today?
That is my intention.
So, Mr. President, you understand that it was this council that voted for a study on Kirby Eddy. It wasn't the administration. I understand you're having discussions with the executive. That's clear. But this council voted to get a study to understand that there's a second option in front of us, which I would argue is far superior to Garfield. But instead of inviting in the consultant who performed that work, you're not enabling the taxpayers, this audience, this council, the ability to hear from partners. And why is that, Mr. President, that you would push this through and then send the sales tax portion to a committee? Why would you bifurcate these two proceedings and have a vote on a piece of property without considering a second site that's in front of us? That council's been saying we don't have anything in front of us, and now we do. And then sending sales tax to committee with no way to fund the purchase of this property. Could you explain that, please, to the taxpayers, why you're not going to afford them this opportunity to hear about the second site and why you would bifurcate the funding of the building of a jail to committee, but not this? Either they both go to committee or they're both being voted on today, would be my position, unless you could convince the taxpayers why this would be a better idea to do such a thing.
I advocated to the administration to provide the study to this body so that it might be reviewed. This council has had that time to review that study. You each will have your opportunity to make a decision on what's before us today with having seen that study as well. So it has been considered by this body, and you will have opportunity to make your vote and your decision known today to the taxpayers and to everyone else.
Mr. President, I wish to now present,
for purposes of discussion. More discussion?
Well, you will take turns. Councilman Schron has the floor.
Yeah, I want my proposed substitute, I want to know the background so that the audience can, and everyone on this panel can hear. I believe that this Garfield site is going to be transformational as a campus. I think the training, the development of individuals are going to get a chance to have an experience that will be beneficial for them. I think that we also, when we see that the old jail site is coming down, I believe it will be also an economic benefit to the city of Cleveland to have probably one of the most valuable pieces of real estate overlooking the lake that'll be centered right downtown. So I think that too is a secondary benefit that I think that will be opened up as a result of this decision. I also believe that with that location, it will create the opportunity perhaps of maybe even bringing another Fortune 100 company downtown to Cleveland to be right on that site in that economic development engine out there. So we get another benefit out of this. Who knows? Perhaps even somebody like BP would come back to Cleveland and be here. And Ms. Simon referred to her phase 2 on the other site. I think that
Two can be a second economic development engine whereby the city of Cleveland would result in getting a second tax-paying site in addition to the current jail site, her site that she's referred to. I've personally developed a site and converted it in a condition almost identical to what she's talking about. It took us 2 years to redevelop the Collinwood Railroad Yards before we could put the first shovelful of dirt in to dig that site to build my own personal corporate headquarters on. So with that, we could actually be transforming a second site down the road in that. So it is with my hope and it's with my desire that this body support the campus concept in Garfield Heights, and I ask you to support this proposed substitute.
Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I fully support the Garfield site, and I applaud Jack for his vision, and I think it's going to come true. But I'm kind of baffled on the report. Mr. President, you mentioned that the report was done, given to all council members, and we had 2 weeks to review it. Isn't it the normal protocol when we get a report back to either put it in the committee of the whole or the committee of safety, so we can have the experts come, we can ask questions, go back and forth to have an understanding of it? Or are you telling me right now that is our protocol or policy that we're on our own, when anything comes back in, not going to any more committees, to be able to review it with the help of the administration, which is very capable, and I absolutely respect the administration's ability to report to us when we ask. So that's my question.
Law Department, is it mandatory that the
It's not
item be
mandatory
discussed
at all.
in executive session?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge? All right.
Oh, it's not, Mr. President, you didn't answer my question. Is that the protocol of you as our leader not to refer reports to the committees, either the whole or the lead committee in the future, and this is going to be the new precedent?
I won't say precedents. This is the process that we had in this moment and this time.
The definition of precedent is making a decision and setting the precedent. I'm not a lawyer, though. I'm just throwing that one out. Thank you.
Mr. President,
I've answered
I
your
just
question.
want to follow up.
Councilwoman Simon, the floor is
I
yours.
just want to follow up. This is highly technical, and it's highly unusual for the president, for this body to bypass, and I'm going to use that word again, getting the word from the consultant, because we're not experts. This should go to the environmental committee to talk about the blight, to talk about what's going to be involved. But none of us are experts as far as I can tell, except my colleague Cheryl Stevens, who probably has the most expertise. But we were left on our own without sharing this with the public. Let's talk about that piece of this. Let's talk about not allowing the public to hear from the expert about what this other site, about this other site, what it entails to clean it up. And why we won't do that is perplexing to me, Mr. President. Is this because maybe you just want to push this along? We can't wait 2 weeks, along with the sales tax? We're not experts in this. I'm not. I don't profess to understand. I read the study. I'm going to have some comments about it. But it's unfortunate that the public that paid for this study, for this purpose, not for another purpose. It's fun how now we can, configure the rationale for why this was voted upon. But the public needs to hear about this other site, what it's going to cost, the time it's going to take, instead of speculation about a private corporation's site at a railroad. This is a site in front of us. I don't want to speculate, and neither should you.
You cannot ask for executive session and say share with the public if we're in executive session.
Mr. President?
Councilman Strong,
Mr. President, I was certainly challenged there by Ms. Simon as far as who has more expertise, who has more time, who has more energy, who has put more into that site, which is only a mile from my office. So please don't try to say that I don't know more about this site than you do or anybody else on this body, and including perhaps Ms. Stevens, only because I lived it for 2 years myself personally, watching every shovel being dug, watching the environmental being cleaned up, watching the railroad tracks being pulled out, watching the asbestos being pulled out, the oil being pulled out. And these sites along the railroad line are a challenge to clean up, to put human beings onto those sites, to be living on those sites as you would be in a facility like this that you're proposing.
Councilman Tuma.
Thank you. After reviewing the report, the gist that I got out of it was that the site Ms. Simon is referring to is a contaminated site that would need remediation. I think we've all been down this road before with a prior site, and we came to the conclusion that we did not want to put people who, some being held involuntarily, on a site for a length of time where there's potential contamination. I have no doubt that this site can be remediated. There's a cost of doing so. And I think some folks on the council have forgotten that we are in a crisis mode with respect to the current jail site. We need to move on this. We have a great location in Garfield Heights with the support of the community. I appreciate the executive and council president making sure that the public did have a say in this out in Garfield. And, you know, it might not be a perfect site, but it is the best site available given the information that we currently have. And, you know, Mr. President brought this forward, and leaders lead, and that's what I would expect out of our president to lead. And so that's where we're at here.
Any further discussion? Councilwoman Stevens, the floor is yours.
Based on the findings of the Phase 2 that Partners Environmental did, they determined that the soil remediation and removal and implementation of an environmental covenant and a risk mitigation plan and an operation and maintenance plan could meet approval of applicable standards for some residential uses. And with that kind of statement written by them, it behooves us to look at it. I do believe it should have gone to a committee and been publicly evaluated, not in an executive session. It is typically the standard to review this in a committee, and we could do it simultaneous to the request to go forward with the funding. And that, yes, we are going to have differences of opinion, and yes, we should recognize each other's strengths, but we should also recognize each other's weaknesses and allow for public discourse. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
Okay, Councilman Miller.
Simon and then Councilman Miller.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to address Councilman Tuma's statement to remind us that this was urgent. Things have been urgent, but you don't make decisions, long-term decisions with thinking that there's no other options and we have to move in this area. But the reason this was tanked was from a letter written not because we didn't think we could clean up transport. In fact, we all agreed, 11 of us, along with the former executive, that we could and that we should. The reason this did not go forward was because of a letter written by the executive Ronayne, not executive at the time, September 28th, 2022, when he told us that he does not support that site, that in most cases he was not going to sign the papers for us to purchase it, and that the funding wasn't, we have to look at the funding, we have to look at the size of the jail because of diversion emphasis that we were moving toward, and the size of the jail site didn't have public transportation that was viable. So here we are 1 year later, kind of in the same boat. We don't have funding. You don't have funding, Mr. President, do you? You're going to vote to have us consider purchasing property without funding. So we're kind of back in the same place we were back then, not wanting to purchase property without the support of the executive. So here we are with the reverse optic, with an executive who, and a council president apparently, and colleagues who want to purchase property without a funding mechanism. I find that ironic. I understand we want something done, but we shouldn't do something without having all the pieces together. And what council president is proposing, that we do one piece without the other piece, which is the most vital piece, how are we going to build this jail? So just a reminder to the colleagues, this wasn't tanked because we didn't think we could clean up transport. We were confident. We had an EPA study. We had 2 studies, every study. In fact, we had no study saying that we couldn't clean it up. So we're in this position today, a year later, because of that, and because of that letter that I'm reading from right now. So I ask that both of these things be put together. We did it last time because we had a discrepancy in purchase and funding. We're in the same place we are today.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Miller, the floor is yours.
To my colleagues, it is not my desire to build a new jail. I would much rather spend the money on health, mental health, climate adaptation, housing, and education. However, we are part of a larger criminal justice system and have not advanced to the point where we can handle most cases without pretrial detention. 50 years from now, they will say we were living in the dark ages. But for now, we need a jail. We've heard that the old jail could be renovated for a small fraction of the cost. That simply is not true. It could be renovated for a large fraction of the cost of a new jail, and it still wouldn't be right. It would still be outdated, unsafe, and expensive to operate. Yes, I would prefer to build in Cleveland closer to downtown and closer to where most of the jail population lives and closer to the police departments most active with the jail. However, there are many factors to consider and no site is perfect. We considered many. This site is better than all of the rest of them, and by a wide margin. It is my understanding that if we pass this legislation, we will then move to the due diligence period, during which, if the county decided that it did not make sense to move forward, that we could withdraw from this site with little or no consequences. Therefore, in what I consider the unlikely prospect that we take a further look at the Eddy Road site and decide that it's workable, there would be nothing to prevent us from doing so. I don't think it's workable, but the possibility remains. The new jail does not have to be 1,903 cells as currently contemplated. There is still time to more effectively reduce pretrial detention and processing times so that we can justify a smaller jail. It requires a community-wide commitment and collaboration among all stakeholders to make this happen under the leadership of our county executive. I commend Executive Ronayne for giving the jail his priority attention, for considering multiple options, and for presenting a solution that is as good as is available under the circumstances. And therefore, I'm a yes to move forward on this purchase.
Councilman Schron. Call for the question.
Well, if we're going to roll call on the substitute, then I'm going to say my piece, because I haven't even done it yet. Since I'm not getting a committee meeting on the study, then I want to talk about this. And I don't understand why, Councilman Miller, I'm sorry, I'm confused why you said that the executive gave us multiple options. There's only been one. And now we have a site that's a second option, and we're being thwarted from exploring that. But I just want to quickly say, and with all respect to the executive, this has been his priority to go to Garfield. But the argument for this site, and I'm going to reiterate things I've said, but I think it's important to have a record. One is it's the center of the county. We saw from the data I presented at the last meeting, it's not the center of the universe of those who use it or their families. 70% come from Cleveland, East Cleveland, Euclid, and then some from Garfield. So the center of that universe of the users is Kirby Eddy, not Garfield. Second reason that Garfield's being considered as a priority site is it's clean already. Well, we know we can clean up other sites. We know we can clean this site up. And in fact, if we take the time to present it to the public, we could hear what it's going to take to clean this site up. It's not going to be 2 years. It's not going to be some extraordinary lift. It's important that we look at it, but we're not going to. The other one is, well, every day goes by, we're spending, billions of dollars. Well, we also heard from Jeff Applebaum, he kind of clarified, but inflation's down. That number's not real anymore. And what we're doing here is buying acres we don't need. I want to remind the council and the public, we only need 40 acres at most for this jail. But instead, we've been presented with almost 72 acres, some of which is unbuildable. And for some reason, we're going to approve, when we say we care about cost, acres that aren't even buildable, retention basins that are not buildable, but we're buying it, I think, what exceeds fair market value. We're told this is a good site because, or we need all these acres because we're going to build a farm and diversion center. Let me tell you this. The diversion center is not working well where it's located. And that's the center of the universe of the people who need it. So what we're planning on doing is building another diversion center, which is never going to succeed when the people will be further away without public transportation or their families. We're enriching a developer, and we're going forward perhaps with purchasing property without a way to build on it. We're also saying that this is a good idea because somehow the county will be healthier. We know that we need a new jail, but we also know that that jail can be located in the right place. Rather than being healthier, it's going to lead to this county being less safe. Why? I've said it before. Cleveland, Euclid, law enforcement now will have to take at least 2 officers off the road to drive the detainees to Garfield through 77, 480 every day, which will take up at least 10 more minutes of their precious time that they can't afford to be off the streets for to keep places safe. Cleveland and Euclid will be further disadvantaged. Why does that matter? It matters to me because I represent Euclid, but more importantly, I represent this county and the county's edges. If we lose the edge of the county, if we lose Euclid, it's already having difficulty with safety issues, we lose the county. We start to erode inward. It's extremely important that we fortify the county's edges, and this particular edge needs fortification. But what we're doing is making it less safe. I don't want to hear how, we want to make Euclid healthy and the county healthy when we take away one of the tools that's going to make sure that it can survive and thrive. It's our logo. Don't forget, our sheriffs now are starting some kind of Cleveland patrol. So what if they pick somebody up, rather than just going 5 minutes down the road to Kirby Eddy, they're going to have to take two deputies off the road, drive whoever they picked up back to Garfield. How is that going to work? How is it going to work that we're further away from the court that's going to be in Cleveland? That's going to take time away from the court's efficiency. That's going to be a safety issue for those who have to transport. The longer they're in the vehicle with detainees, the more likely there's a chance something can happen. Another missed point is the opportunity we have to actually be a regional partner. We heard today how important it is to be a regional partner. We're failing. By doing this, we're failing because the ones we're serving are not adjacent to Garfield Heights. Cleveland does not have its own jail. City of Euclid does not have a jail. CMHA uses our jail. Metro Parks uses the jail. And what we're doing is not helping these communities that cannot have. Bedford, another one, doesn't have a jail. All these other communities that my colleagues represent have their courts have their own jails. So when they pick up misdemeanants, they can run right to Rocky River. My colleague knows in District 1, they can take their detainees, misdemeanants, right to their own jail. But these communities who don't have the luxury, they can't afford to have a fully staffed jail, they have to rely on us at the county, the City of Euclid, City of Richmond Heights, City of Cleveland. This is where they need to take their detainees. They're the only ones. Bedford, because we took away their jail too. So there's just a small handful of communities that need us. And we have a chance now to help these communities not to have to spend their budget money that could keep their communities safe to build their own jail. This doesn't make sense. Garfield has its own jail, but we're gonna move our jail to Garfield that already has a jail. And by the way, I think they're planning to build their courts there. So we're taking away from the communities that are most impoverished. We talk about racism as a crisis, but what are we doing here? We're taking resources away, and I guarantee you this is not going to be a happy ending. When we keep taking and taking, We're going to give money for things that at the end of the day aren't going to matter when people are moving out because it's not safe. And that includes the core, the urban core of our county as the city of Cleveland. They haven't stepped up enough. I don't really care because I care about the county. And this, at the end of the day, we invest in Kirby Eddy, that helps. You know, that site's been sitting there forever. Nobody, you know, I don't want to hear that, oh, somebody else is going to come in with a Fortune 500. And I also don't want to hear that there's some urgency about the city of Garfield site being sold because it's sat there, it's been sitting for 10 years. Lastly, almost lastly, and I'm sorry that I'm taking up this time, this site at Garfield is not sufficiently accessible to visitors via public transportation. Let's not kid ourselves. Doesn't make sense. The executive wrote, that's his quote. At a site that was downtown, transport. But now we think that somehow one bus route through Garfield is sufficient transportation for people coming from Cleveland, East Cleveland, and Euclid. It takes an hour and 40 minutes one way with at least one transfer for a family member to go to the commissary at Garfield to give them some money so they can afford a candy bar because we charge probably 10 times more. So this doesn't make sense either. We don't have the transportation, and we're never going to make that right. People get out of there, they're going to have nowhere to go. We've heard that commentary. It's true. At 4 o'clock, we see the prisoners coming out. They can, downtown now, at least there's bus routes, there's activity. So they're going to be, unfortunately, stuck in Garfield if they're not lucky enough to catch the bus on time to get back to their homes. What would reentry say? This is contrary to our philosophy about reentry. We don't have that family connection. So the most vulnerable are going to be stripped of means to succeed. And at the end of the day, that's why I think it's important we hear about this alternate site. And I want to close with support of a colleague who made a statement to the Cleveland.com about the color of the skin of those who are pushing it. I think I can say this as a white council person, that the optics sometime leads some to believe that there's a privilege of voting on something without stepping into the shoes of those we serve. And when I have 6 white colleagues voting, and let's add 7, the executive, making decisions which I believe are heartfelt, I believe there's no racial animus, but the optics of this, to some, might show that there's insensitivity to those who they've never walked with. And I've just described all these different pathways of how we're shutting down those we don't walk with. Some of us might not. I'm just talking about optics. So in defense of my colleague, I believe that's partially why that statement was told to the Cleveland.com. It's an optic. And I hope today we consider that optic and not bypass looking at a study that my colleague Sweeney brought up. Would, in no other circumstance, would we shove under the rug. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Mr. President.
I was first.
Colleagues, let me
May I say something?
we have, the 11 of us have worked for 12 years, different variations of us. But this body has worked well for a long time. This actual body of the 11 of us here. I hear your pain because I'll say this to the people. The 11 individuals here genuinely care. They genuinely care about the work. And although our opinions are different, we're here to do the work of the people. I don't want this to devolve into personal attacks, all those things. I don't believe a person here is racist, the 11 of us. I don't. So, and we've had enough conversations amongst ourselves that I believe we can work these things out without having to air everything out in public. But that's how we're set. But I say that to say, one, we will vote. We will vote. We will move forward. And we will vote. I'll leave it. I won't say too much more than that. We will move forward.
A discussion.
If there's any, and we are still in discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mr. President.
go this way. We'll start with Councilman Gallagher. He has been very quiet so far, so we'll give him time.
That's usually not a good thing.
Yeah, there we go.
I think as everybody here can see, this has been an issue that's been at the forefront for all of us, and especially me. I was the original and still on the committee for the Just Center Jail. That started in 2017. In 2017, by dragging our feet and doing the right thing, and listening to studies, and listening to people that had no business on the committee telling us what to do, had no skin in the game. We were losing $1 million a month. They didn't care. Didn't hurt their budget. What do they care? Well, I cared, and I voiced it time and time again. And I think my colleagues up here are sick and tired of hearing it. I saw this problem, I thought, coming. I thought I had a solution with my colleague, Ms. Simon, to put legislation forward. It died on the floor here, a horrible death that would have, I think, taken care of many of the concerns that are being raised right now. So in 2017, we were losing $1 million a month. Today, we're losing $2.5 million a month, and that's a low estimate. So for every year we dawdle, that's $30 million. So for all of you out there that don't think it's real money, welcome to our committees in October and November when we're doing our budget. It will affect each and every budget within the county. It will affect each and every program within the county. We have spent over 5 years talking about this, debating this. We have, and I'm not talking about anybody up here, we have withstood lies, politics, personal wants, personal attacks, vendettas, threats, and we withstood it all. So I'm not going to let an unfortunate comment get in the way of what I feel about my colleagues up here or what's important to the people of this county. Whether you know it or you don't know it, one of the most important things we can do is move forward on this jail. Is Garfield my first choice? Absolutely not. We had the site. The site was transport right over there. You had 11 votes. You had financing set to go. And I thank my colleagues up here for the gumption to put that financing together and take the massive political hit they were going to take. We had to withstand our own attorney threatening to sue us for doing our elected job. We had to put up with slings and arrows from a once great plain dealer with outright inaccuracies. And yes, we had candidates out there trying to get elected saying things that have hurt us and have kicked us back. But here we sit today. So the question is, do we take more time and debate and look at studies? Can we clean up Kirby? Sure we can. Do we have 2 years to do it? I don't know. Do you have $60 million you want to give away? Because it's $30 million a year. Had we gone forward with the site, 11 of us and the executive, with everything involved, we would have been getting ready to put steel in the ground. But here we sit, dragging our feet again. And it's getting emotional, it's getting personal, and it shouldn't. I think our frustrations have risen to the top, to the point where they boiled over. There are hard feelings, and I'm sorry for that. But the reality is we've got to move. And in an elected position, regardless of what I look like or where I'm from, there is nobody on this council or in this room that fought harder for Cleveland than me, that fought harder for the right thing than me, that put up with more crap from other people than me. And I took it, and I took it, and I took it. And one other thing I took was notes. And I told all those people, come debate me. Silence. And the reason there's silence is because I was right and they were wrong. And those people collectively, and I'll never forgive them for it, in the end will have cost this county, you, all of you, $100 million extra by the things that they did. I'll never forgive them. But it takes me to today. I don't have $60 million more to waste. I don't have 2 more years to waste. There's many other things in the pipeline that none of you know about that will cost us even more than that. So do I want to go to Garfield? Is it ideal? Not really, but I don't have any more options anymore. And the reason I don't have any options is because I've looked at them all, and I've debated them all, and I've been there in the room. And while we maybe not agree on this, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree to move forward. I can't even tell you. I've been in elected office 24 years. These are the most passionate people that I know. We're not always right. We're not always wrong, but we got to move forward. So what I would suggest we do is close this discussion, vote your conscience, and let's see where we end up.
Councilman Sweeney and then Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 3 points, pretty quick. We talked, just going back to the process. I'm a stickler on process, as you know. I'm somewhat regimented. And you made this statement that, yes, we have a process, studies normally get referred, but not on this one. I'm asking why. Okay, I'll move to the next one. In regards to the optics, as my councilperson, Sonny Simon, who I have ultimate respect for, and this is not fun for the vice president right now. That was just a comment that was made. I don't believe she believes that, and I know for a fact she doesn't believe it. But the optics on my end and the other 6 white males is that I don't want to use the word, we have making decisions by race and color of people's skin. And all I am asking for is someone to say, that's not right. I condemn that comment, and I haven't heard that. That's what that was about earlier today. And number 3, just as my council president said, it's a highly functioning council for the last 12 years. I'm going to say it's for the last 10 years, the last 2.5, not so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Miller, the floor is yours.
Mr. President, I could say a whole lot, but I don't think I should. I just want to clear the record on a couple of things. When I made my comment earlier, I did not say that the executive sent us multiple options. I said that the executive considered many options before sending us a recommendation. And that's a true statement. Number 2, we've heard this about 11 of us supported Transport Road. Well, I didn't support Transport Road.
Nor did I.
I think that in theory it could be remediated, but I didn't think the optics were good using a site that had the kind of heavy industrial use history that site had. Third thing, about Garfield Heights. It's a very diverse, low to moderate income community. I think the optics criticism on Garfield Heights is off target. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Miller, are there any other comments? If not, we will move forward. Yes, Councilwoman.
I do.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman.
I just want to say that these numbers we're hearing about what it's going to cost and the time it's going to take to clean up Kirby Eddy are not substantiated, and we're not taking the time to look at that report. And to go into committee in 2 weeks isn't going to, dramatically change the speed in which this jail may or may not be built on the site. So again, I think Councilman Sweeney asked you, President, what's the reason why you refuse to send this to committee for the public to hear the results, and you won't answer? What is your answer?
So let me say this. We all know our 7th grade social studies. 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and the judicial. All right? This body, this legislative body, could vote 11-0 to go to Eddy Road. This body could vote 11-0 to go to Garfield. But that's just this branch. The county executive wouldn't have to do either of those. Or he could pick either one. But this body doesn't have the power to make the executive go to Eddy Road. We have one piece of legislation in front of us, and that's Garfield. We have to deal with it because we are co-equal branches. We don't control that. As passionate as we are, the reality is we have to deal with what's in front of us. And that's what this body will do. For better or for worse, we are going to do what we're going to deal with what's in front of us. Okay.
Okay, and I want to thank Councilman Gallagher for his comments and his work, and also want to clarify that the demographics of Garfield and the users of the jail, that it's not Cleveland and Euclid are the top users. So anyways, thank you, Councilman Gallagher, for your words and your work. And our legislation that Councilman Tron and I guess a couple colleagues want to overturn and is unfortunate, because that would have been a way to resolve the animus and moving forward. But Council President, I appreciate your answer about 3 branches of government, but it really doesn't go to why we can't go to committee, but we'll leave it on the table.
Mr. President,
Councilman?
one last thing is, as far as the cost of remediation, I believe we were versed on this by Public Works, Mr. Dever and Ms. English. They provided us with estimates to remediate, and they were very, very high.
No, excuse me, Mr. President, not for this site. Because this is one I went over meticulously.
Let's get the vote.
No, let's just not vote. I mean, if we really want statistics about what it's going to cost, go to committee. But for some reason, we don't want to hear the truth. And we don't want to hear the truth, and we're going to bypass committee for this, but again, go to the committee for the sales tax.
Move for a vote.
Go ahead.
All right. Madam Clerk, just remind me, the motion to accept the proposed substitute was first and seconded?
The motion to introduce the proposed substitute was introduced and seconded. Now we have to have a
All right. All those,
overall vote.
first, all those in favor of accepting the proposed substitute, take roll call.
Where's the proposed substitute? I'd like to hear.
Now, Councilman Strawn has just introduced it.
It's the proposed substitute is the exact same language that appeared before it was amended two meetings ago.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed. How about a roll call
Let's
on
do
this?
a roll call.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens? Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Missed him.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Council President Jones?
Yes.
Mr. President, I now move that the proposed substitute as was just adopted be now approved.
And we will do that by roll call as well.
All right, did you get it? Was
Second.
it Okay.
Excuse me?
That's what we
second.
just did.
Yeah, second is not,
We proposed the substitute, it was substituted, now we're moving on.
And second is not required. A roll call vote for those in favor of adopting the resolution on its merits.
Council President,
Substituted, yes.
can I give the tally of the vote that we just took?
Please do, yes.
Okay, so we had 8 voting in the affirmative and 3 casting dissenting votes. So the motion carries for the 8.
For accepting the proposed substitute.
Correct.
Okay. So now we will do a roll call vote for, of those in favor of, again, adopting the resolution on its whole, on its merits, as substituted.
Do you have the moving party on the adoption of the?
Yes, it was Jack Schron and Dale Miller.
Okay, thank you.
So we're taking this vote, another roll call vote. So Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell,
No.
Ms. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens? Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Council President Jones?
Yes.
The roll call resulted in 8 voting in the affirmative and 3 casting dissenting votes. The motion carries.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman?
I would like at this time to call upon the executive not to proceed with purchasing property without having a mechanism to build anything on it. And I just want to make that statement. I don't believe that is a responsible way for this council to proceed, nor the executive.
This time, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution 2020, excuse me, Ordinance 2023-0016, enacting Section 208.05 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish a Cuyahoga County Women's Health Advisory Council to serve as a resource for information, advice, and recommendations regarding goals, strategies, and programs of the county to support women's access to the full range of healthcare options, including reproductive and maternal health, and eliminate health disparities.
This item will be referred to the Health, Human Services, and Aging Committee. Committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading.
Ordinance 2023-0014, providing for the adoption of a new Section 3.04 of the Cuyahoga County Employee Handbook.
This item will move to the October 10th council agenda for consideration for third reading adoption. Consideration of ordinances for third reading adoption.
Ordinance 2023-0012, amending and codifying Board of County Commissioners Resolution Number 2007-073101, dated July 26, 2007, and enacting new Chapter 727, Section 727.01 of the Cuyahoga County Code to change the time period during which the county sales tax shall be levied at the aggregate rate of 1 1/4%.
Move to adopt.
Second.
If there are no objections, I will refer this item back to the Committee of the Whole.
Which item?
Any discussion?
0012?
That is correct.
Why don't we call for a vote?
If you're objecting, is that what you want?
Yeah.
I have no objection to being referred back to Committee of the Whole. You chair the committee.
If there's an objection and you're making a motion?
Yeah, I object to this going to the committee. It's on for third reading, and I don't know why now the president's deciding not to call a vote.
I made a motion to send it to the committee of the whole. If you are objecting, what is your motion?
I don't need a motion. I'm a no vote.
You do need a motion. This is not a vote to send to committee of the whole. It is a decision unless someone is objecting.
I'm objecting.
So what is your alternate motion?
A motion to vote on Resolution 2023-0012.
All right. At this time, we will have a vote. Oh, yes, that is correct. It's been properly moved. And it
Can
has
I get
been
who seconded, please? I didn't
moved
hear.
and seconded by Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell.
Procedurally,
And now we'll
understand.
have discussion.
Mr. President.
Yes. Yes, Councilman Miller?
Mr. President, you desired to refer it to committee, and that was objected to. So in that case, we should have a vote on whether or not to refer it to committee.
That's correct.
And I would second your motion to refer it to committee.
I would like input from
We'll
our
check with our
law.
law director. It's my belief that because her motion was made first, but you got us, law director.
What I heard was a motion to approve the ordinance in a second, and then following that, I believe you stated without objection, I propose to move to send this to the committee, assuming the committee of the whole. At that point, there was an objection, and so as a point of order, as Councilman Miller said, that objection can be framed in the form of a motion to send this to a committee. It would be a subsidiary motion under Rule 9E 3E. Of the council rules, and so it would be appropriate at this time for there to be a motion and a second on the motion to send it to the committee. A vote on that would be a subsidiary motion, and if that motion then passes, then it goes to committee. If it does not pass, then the vote remains in front of council as to whether to approve the ordinance. So it would be appropriate at this time for a motion and a second to send it to the committee, there having been an objection made to your statement to refer it to a committee.
Take me slowly here. I desire to send it to the committee of the whole. And I do that unilaterally except with objection. And in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because we brought this back after it was a failed vote, I brought back a third reading adoption item as a failed vote. So I don't unilaterally send it back. I have to do it unless there's an objection.
And there was, yes.
There was an objection, and the objection was an actual motion to vote.
I did not hear the actual motion to vote to send it to a committee yet.
Councilwoman Sunny Simon made a motion.
I didn't move it to committee.
Council President?
Okay, I just want to be
So you made a motion, Councilmember Miller seconded to refer it to committee. Then Councilmember Simon made a motion for it not to go to committee.
No,
I'm sorry.
that's not the order of things, Madam Clerk.
Sunny Simon made a motion, and it was seconded by Yvonne Conwell, Councilmember.
Mr. Law Director, could I
Yes.
ask a question?
Please do.
My understanding
yeah.
is that once that was raised, the motion, her motion cannot come in between that until you get a second up one way or the other, then hers would be substitute. You can't intervene with the second motion in between till his is resolved.
Okay, wait, this is what happened. I objected, and I made a motion to vote on this resolution in front of us. It was seconded by Conwell. There's nothing coming in between.
The president moved that it was going to go to committee of the whole.
Correct.
That came before you.
objected.
He didn't move, he just said he's doing it. There was no motion.
There is no
There's no
motion.
motion by the president. He said he was going to do it, and I correctly objected. And now I want to vote.
So
Who
let's,
does?
let's take turns. Let's take a moment. Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. Hold one moment. Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. I know, but I'm just going to.
Yeah, how
you
things
got to have this
change.
clear. So I referred it to committee of the whole, and I said without objection, unless there's an objection. Now, there was an objection, okay? So what Law Director, my question to you, though, is I wanted to make sure we moved through that, because the next thing that happened was she made an objection, and Councilwoman, you cleared for me, Simon, did you make a motion, or did you not make a motion?
Made a motion that we vote on this ordinance, and I had a second. So I'd like you to call a vote.
And that was Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell. That was the
It's a vote on-
chronological order, maintain order. That was the chronological order of what happened. Then Councilman Miller made a motion. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Councilman Miller, who made the motion, agrees on that process, on chronologically what happened. Okay? So now, and it was seconded. But the question was, do you go past what Simon says and go to his? You need to factor her comments into the decision, and that's my ask of you.
Okay, just a
Who's on
point of
first?
clarification, and maybe the clerk can help clarify. What I heard, subject to everyone clarifying, was when the ordinance was read, what I heard was a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. That's what I heard first.
The proposed substitute.
There wasn't a substitute. Yes, this is the ordinance.
I'm sorry, you're correct.
Right. And so am I correct that's what occurred first, the reading, and then the motion to approve, and the second? So is that what was said first?
Yes.
That's what I heard, right?
Okay, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, so that then that makes the motion live. That's the main motion at that point under the council rules. 9E, the motion to approve the ordinance is now in front of council. However, under Council Rule 9E, there are subsidiary motions that can then be made after the motion is made and seconded. And those subsidiary motions are listed in 9E, subsection 3, and one of them is to commit or refer to a committee. And so then the main motion, having been made and being in front of council, it is not inappropriate to have a subsidiary motion under the council rules and Robert's Rules of Order as well, to refer the legislation to committee. It's not inappropriate, so that would be handled then by a motion and a second to refer it to committee, and then a vote on it. And then it's either going to go to committee or it's not. And if the vote is to approve it to go to committee, then that's where it'll go. If it's not approved, then the main motion then stands. And the question remains in front of council unresolved. Are you going to vote yes or no on the passage of the ordinance? I hope that makes sense. The chronology is important. The chronology is important because what I heard is a motion and a second to approve the ordinance out of the gate.
Which was Council President Jones made the motion, Councilmember Gallagher seconded.
So where we are right now is we are preparing to vote.
If there's a motion and a second to refer it to committee, then there would be a discussion period of time, and then you could vote on the subsidiary motion to send it, recommit it really, to the committee of the whole, because it's been there already. So it'd be a motion to recommit as a subsidiary motion. So it'd be a motion, I heard a lot of people moving that, but there was a lot of people talking at once.
Let's all listen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So right now you're saying we need to consider a vote to refer to committee.
Correct, because your suggestion after the motion and second were made, your suggestion to, without objection, send it to the committee was objected to. And so at that point, it would be appropriate then to entertain a motion to send it to the committee, a second, and a vote on that.
Mr. President, based on the law director, I hereby propose a subsidiary motion to send this back to committee of the whole, based in accordance with what the council, what we just had advice.
Is that necessary, or is that already on the floor?
No, it's not.
Exactly.
Again, I didn't.
Quiet, let's listen.
Yeah, well, just going back to, I heard a lot of people talking, and so if Dale, I'm sorry, Councilman Miller, already made that motion to send it back to a committee, and it was seconded, then that particular motion is ripe for consideration, discussion, and then a vote by the council.
Councilman Miller, was that your motion to?
Yes, it was.
So Jack Strawn is not necessary to do it because Councilman Miller had already.
Okay, then I'll second Mr. Miller's.
Then we need a second.
There we go, have a second.
Correct.
On a subsidiary motion to send it back to.
Madam Clerk, thank you. Madam Clerk,
Yes.
you can do a roll call. And for clarity, state one more time so we know we're voting on. All right.
Correct.
Taking the roll call vote to refer it back to committee, Mr. Schron.
Yes.
Ms. Conwell.
No.
Ms. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
No.
Ms. Simon.
No. No.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Mr. Tuma.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher. Council President Jones.
Yes.
The motion carries, 8 voting in the affirmative and 3 casting dissenting votes.
All right. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, you can read the next item.
Ordinance 2023-0013, amending and codifying Board of County Commissioners Resolution Number 2007-073102, dated July 26, 2007, and enacting new Chapter 727, Section 727.02 of the Cuyahoga County Code to change the period of time during which the county use tax shall be levied at the aggregate rate of 1 1/4%.
Second.
Second.
Perfect.
Parallel legislation, we will.
I object. Well, we don't have to object because it's a motion. Do your roll call.
Madam
3
Clerk,
noes,
continue.
8 yeses. Let's go.
Still have to vote.
Council President Jones? So are we going to do it, can we do a roll call for this or no?
Yes, roll call.
Thank you. Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Ms. Simon?
Nope.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Council President Jones?
Yes.
Again, the motion carries, 8 voting in the affirmative and 3 casting dissenting votes.
All right. All right, at this time, is there any miscellaneous committee reports?
Mr. President,
Yes.
Finance and Budgeting Committee will meet at our next regularly scheduled time, which is on Monday, October 2nd at 1 p.m. to hear the item that was referred at the previous council meeting, the one that remains. Thank you.
Mr. President, Public Works will meet at its regularly scheduled time next Wednesday morning. Thank you.
Mr. President, Safety, Tuesday, 1 o'clock tentatively.
Environment and Education, October 4th, Wednesday at 3, to hear these items and the fiscal item that was moved.
Human Resources, Appointments, and Equity will meet at our regularly scheduled time to address the many items that were referred tonight.
Community Development, October 2nd at 10 a.m.
All right, if there are no more reports,
Councilmember Stevens, just want to state that the CRAS meeting will take place tomorrow, September 27th at 2 p.m.
Thank you.
all right, is there any miscellaneous business?